We'd like to welcome everybody back to the Football's Family podcast. And I've got it's a cold day here in Hurricane Mills. It's just freezing. But there are things that are heating up in football, and just I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, to me in the NFL, the best teams right now are the Lions and the Bills. That game yesterday, this is on Friday the 6th, and I'm recording this. That game yesterday with the Packers and the Lions, where people say, well, the Packers are an up and coming team, and they're a playoff team. But how the Lions won that game, the Lions are flashy, the Lions are great, but they also are very gritty. That fourth down play by Dan Campbell to send the running back up the middle, and Jared Goff tripped and nearly fumbled the ball, and that was nearly a bad play by Dan Campbell, bad call by Dan Campbell. Turned out to be great. The Lions, in my opinion, are the best team in the NFC. Close second are the Philadelphia Eagles. Good gracious, that team is amazing too. But if you were to put those two together right now, to me, the favorite would be the Lions. I'm not taking anything away from the Eagles, but the Lions are probably the best team in the NFC right now. AFC, I think that is, I wouldn't say head and shoulders, but in my opinion, the best team in the AFC would be the Buffalo Bills. Chiefs are close. I get that. Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and that makes the difference in a lot of ways. But I want you to look at how the Bills have been playing. Lately, it's just been them overwhelming other teams with how good they are. And at the beginning of the season, I heard every story like you did that the Bills, through the offseason moves and their lack of playmakers in some cases, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be there in January. Their season is shot and that sort of stuff. And look at them now. Look at them now. So in the NFL, to me, the two best teams are the Lions and the Bills. Now, that doesn't mean anything in the playoffs, obviously. Any team can beat another team in the playoffs. But if things play out the way I think they do, I would love to see the Lions and the Bills in the Super Bowl. It'd be a great matchup. Would the Bills get another loss? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know right now, but the Lions being their first Super Bowl, they better have Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders there, and they better give them a version of the ring because those two guys put themselves through bad teams just to be loyal. And they wonder why they retired early. It's because of that. It's because of that. So I'm looking at those two teams, to me, are the best teams in the NFL. There's debate, and obviously it's okay to have debate. But I think that those two are the top teams in the NFL. Now, what I really want to talk about for the next just a few minutes is the college football championship bracket. The top 12 teams in the nation apparently are in this playoffs as of right now. Now, I want to point out a couple things that are probably dangerous. Is that the teams that are in the championship games are doing themselves a disservice. Doing themselves a disservice. I think it's not a good idea to be playing in the championship game. This like they had a choice. I mean, if your team ends up being in the championship game, there's nothing you could do about it. You won enough to get there. But I want you to see that there are potential downfalls for most of the teams that are in there. Case in point, the most obvious one is Georgia versus Texas in the SEC tournament or championship game. Right now, Texas is the 2 seed and has a bye in the championship, the bracket, the playoffs. Georgia, this is in ESPN.com, according to that team, that ranking, Georgia, who is 10-2, are playing. They're playing Indiana. Indiana is not playing anymore. Indiana is pretty much in. If Georgia loses that game, do they drop out of the do they drop out of the race? Do they drop out of the race? Do they drop out of the brackets? Now, and the same token, if Texas loses, Texas will not drop out of the top 12. So you see where I'm going with this. Now, I don't know if Georgia drops out of it because apparently Alabama is in the championship picture at number 11 with 3 losses. That to me even though I'm a Bama fan, that to me is not good because Miami has two losses and has been a pretty good team this year. Should be there. The Hurricanes should be there, but here's Alabama because my Alabama has a bigger fan base. That's probably what it is. It's money, but they talk about the strength of schedule and everything like that. But again, Alabama, and we are all aware of this. Alabama has three losses. Now, again, to good teams, well, sort of good teams. My Commodores beat them, but for the most part, to me, Alabama should not be in this hunt. However, what would happen if Georgia loses in the SEC championship game? Would they drop out of the top 12? Would Miami jump them? Or would they fall back to a number 12 where Arizona State is right now? Again, according to ESPN.com, Arizona State is playing Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game. What if Arizona State loses? What if Arizona State loses? What do you do next? Arizona State loses to Iowa State. Does Iowa State jump up in there because that's a Big 12 title? Or does Miami jump them? It's just funny to me how things work out like that. Do you really want to play in your championship game? Obviously, you cannot help that. But I want you to look at this. Clemson and SMU in their championship game. SMU has been a juggernaut this year in the ACC and in other places as well. But SMU right now in the ESPN ranking is third seed, and they will get a bye. Boise State is fourth. By the way, I think Boise State is a darling this year. That's awesome. Boise State did a great job. If SMU loses, do they drop out of the top 12 and Clemson being the SEC ACC title championship game, do they, or being the ACC champion, do they jump up in the top 12? Because I guess the ACC gets an at-large bid or a championship bid, and maybe SMU, because of strength of schedule or because of everything like that, do they drop out? Now, I don't think so. SMU would be a two-loss team and would have lost in the title game, in the ACC title game. I don't think so. But what happens if that's the case? Do you have two ACC teams like that so close together? Now, what's funny about this is Boise State to me is going to be in. Boise State is done. They have UNLV Saturday, or excuse me, it would be they have UNLV, and UNLV is actually 10-2 and 6-1 in conference play. So Mountain West will not get two teams in the titles. They just won't. They won't get two teams in there. So would that knock out Boise State if UNLV wins, or is Boise State going to be good enough to be part of that top 12? So when I say that they won't have two teams, you're going to have to knock out a bigger conference team to get two teams in there. I think Boise State has had a good enough record throughout the year to stay, but in order to do that, they would have to knock out a team who is from a bigger conference with a bigger fan base, and I don't know if that's going to happen. UNLV, if they win, they will move up into the top 12 because of the championship deal. But my goodness, would you have two teams from the Mountain West Conference in there? Would you have two teams? And I want you to think about this as well. So right now in the top 12, you have Oregon, Texas, Longhorns. Again, according to ESPN, SMU, Boise State. They all get byes, 1 through 4. In the first round matchups, you have Tennessee, you have versus Oregon. This right here to me is going to be not Oregon, excuse me, Ohio State. This right here would be one of the best matchups that I could think of because both teams are pretty even matched. You have Arizona State versus Penn State, you have Alabama versus Notre Dame, you'll have Indiana versus Georgia. Again, this is right now, right now. This is not with the title games, which I believe starts tonight and goes into tomorrow, which is Saturday. Things will change. I'm glad to see that the Volunteers did not drop out of the 12. I'm glad to see that. Ohio State didn't drop out, obviously. To me, Oregon State or Oregon Ducks right here, is Big Ten is just, they're that good. I think that they are the odds are on favorite to make it to the title game and probably win it. To me, I think that they're going to play the Longhorns because right now, if you go down to the 10th versus the 7, Indiana versus Georgia, according to ESPN, they play the second ranked team. They'll play Texas. I don't think if Georgia plays Texas Saturday, I don't think Georgia's going to beat them twice. I don't think they will. I don't even think they're going to beat them once. I think Texas is just that good. Georgia has struggled a bit. They're good, but I think Texas is much better in a lot of ways than Georgia. Alabama. Again, I don't know if Alabama deserves to be number 11. I think Miami probably should be in that area there. But Miami plays Notre Dame, and Notre Dame has been pretty solid. Or excuse me, Alabama plays Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been pretty solid. So what do you think is going to happen in that game? Notre Dame will probably win that game, and I don't think they'll make the Tide look bad, but they'll probably make the committee look bad. That the Tide shouldn't be in there. Arizona, Penn State. I think Penn State's the class in that game, but Arizona State's been pretty good too. So I'm looking forward to this playoff bracket. I'm looking forward to seeing these playoffs happen, but I'm also looking forward to this weekend because how many championship games do you have that could affect the brackets here? Last thing, I was talking to a friend of mine. She's a big Tennessee fan. Big Tennessee fan. I said, y'all actually did yourself a favor by not being in the SEC championship game. It'd be great to hold another banner and say your SEC title champion. That's huge. That's great. But if the Tennessee Volunteers lost, they would be out of this bracket. If Georgia loses, they probably are going to drop out of this bracket. If Texas loses, they're going to drop down, but they're not out. You see, it's just Texas has nothing to worry about, and that's probably going to make them play better. Georgia has everything to worry about, and that might make them play tighter. Tennessee is looking back and saying, I'd like to be the SEC title holder, champion, all that, but I'm good. So look at this again. Think about how in any of these things that you're looking at, how great this next few weeks are going to be and how great all these things coming up are going to look. I'm excited about college football. I'm excited about the NFL. The NFL has more games left, obviously, than the college football, but I think right now, just thinking about it, college football is the way to go right now. Thank y'all for listening.